And we're live. I made this one available to the public, so someone might find us on some random search or something. I don't know. But anyway, I'm Michael Martinez with SEO Theory, Reflective Dynamics. Kent Yunk is howling in the background. You know you have a lot of background noise?
I do, and it is a landscaper about 2 doors down with a leaf blower.
Boy, he is really powerful. So, all right, Kent Yunk's with Roaring Pajamas SEO. This is the January 29th, 2016 Hangout between me and Kent, third week in a row. We're almost on a weekly basis now.
Almost, yes.
So that's good. We're getting there. We are arranging our priorities better, making a difference. Just to adjust my collar.
Yeah, you look good, Michael. You look good. You certainly look better than I do. I'm a little red, so I'm working on my my lighting so that I'm not quite so. I don't know.
Let's see how I look at my natural lighting here. There. Okay, so that's my natural lighting, and that's with some artificial lighting.
You clearly have a better camera than I do, because.
Well, we don't need to go there.
So I know that we talked before we started the call, and you suggested that we talk about
building private blog networks.
Building private blog networks, and can you do me a favor? Can you sort of set the stage about that, because that probably sends shivers down the spine of some people that are online marketers. So
yeah, online marketers are funny people. I'll tell you what, if you could mute, that would probably help the quality of our broadcast.
Sure, I'll do that. Let's see.
Okay, so private blog networks and web marketers. Web marketers tend to think in very narrow dimensions, and I'll take an example off the latest SEO Theory blog post, where I wrote about SEO myths for 2016, and one of the things that I keep coming back to is that people they continue to use domain authority as a metric by which to judge the quality of a website. And the problem with domain authority and trust flow and all those other SEO metrics, it's the same problem that we had with the toolbar PageRank, which is it's just a snapshot in time. Whether it's a good opinion or a bad opinion doesn't really matter without the context of the history of those changing metrics. When you look at a number, you don't really know what that's saying about a website. So you've got let's say a domain authority 60 website. I think most people would consider that to be pretty good. And the domain authority 2 months ago might have been 65. Well, why did it go from 65 down to 60? Because it lost some link value. Now, maybe that was spammy link value, and Moz decided that those links should not be counted. Or maybe it was good link value, and the websites that were linking to the site have been taken offline. Or maybe it was good link value, and Moz decided it was spammy link value. Moz does not evaluate links the same way that Google or Bing do. Bing doesn't evaluate links the same way Google does. They all have their own algorithms, they all have their own data, and they all reach their own conclusions. And people are substituting domain authority and trust flow, citation rank, and all this other stuff for the old toolbar PageRank. It was always wrong for people to use the toolbar PageRank to evaluate the quality of a website. A link on a low PR or a low domain authority or a low trust flow website is usually just as good as a link on a high website. Now, the higher value websites, if they're crawled more frequently, they might get your anchor text passed to you sooner. There might be a little more trust or something like that. But basically, once the website being linked to is in a high tier in the search engine's index, then all the anchor text and the value or whatever that's directed at it flows into it, generally at a good, healthy rate. And it doesn't matter what the metrics on the linking website should be. So when I say that web marketers are looking at things one-dimensionally, they're just looking at a number, taking it out of context, and they're not really thinking in terms of the history or what surrounds that number, and so they have very incomplete information. When it comes down to talking about private blog networks, a lot of web marketers think, "Oh God, private blog networks are just web spam," and that's so far from the truth that it just underscores how limited web marketer thinking tends to be versus what people on the web are really doing and what the search engines find on the web. So anybody can have a private blog network that is not built around manipulative linking. A lot of major companies have multiple websites, and therefore they have what are essentially private blog networks. They're all owned by the same people, they're operated by the same people. They may even interlink with each other. And Google and Bing have both said, if you have like 4 or 5 websites linking to each other, even through the footer, they're fine with that. That's not going to get you into trouble. And so I wanted to talk about the way that a lot of companies shy away from building specialized microsites and things like that because they think they're going to get in some sort of trouble, which is nothing could be farther from the truth. So that's a good stopping point for me to let you chime in.
Well, I think the landscaper has decided to turn off his leaf blower, so it should sound less noisy on my end. So it's interesting that you're debunking the myth about um, sites of lower quality having less link value than sites that have higher, domain authority. Can you explain a little bit why you substantiate that?
Well, okay, so first of all, domain authority is not passed. All right. Bing and Google don't use it. It's a metric that was proposed by Moz several years ago, out of the blue, with no rationalization based on whatever was going on with the search engines. They came up with their own justifications for it, and so now it's become pervasive in the SEO evaluation landscape. People go in and they do audits and go, well, your backlinks have these domain authority metrics, which they're completely irrelevant to what the search engines are finding and calculating. The search engines don't compute domain authority. It's mathematically incompatible with a page level citation ranking like PageRank or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the search engines can adjust the value of the links on a page that flow to the destination. They can also adjust the value of a page that receives links. A domain authority doesn't allow you to do that. Domain authority is just one number for the whole site. Every page would benefit from it, and that would contradict what the search engines were trying to do at the page level. So it's a complete misconception. It's very misleading, and it's a real distraction from what web marketers should be looking at when they look at things like where to get links from and where to place links and why they should be linking and how they should be linking. They're thinking, well, if I get links from a high domain authority website, I'm going to get some sort of value, SEO value, in the search results for Bing and Google. You get absolutely nothing. It's just a complete waste of time. So the uh, the SEO community sometimes acknowledges this in a kind of backhanded way. It's like, oh yeah, ha ha ha, domain authority is not a real Google metric. We all understand that, and then they go right back to quoting, well, I've got a DA65 website, and I'm getting DA35 and 45 links. Do I have a problem here? Yeah. So it's like goes right over their head. They don't understand what they're doing, and they go out and they tell their clients, you with their reports, their audits, and things like that. Here's your domain authority on these links, and here's your domain authority on your website, and it doesn't really matter. Everybody could have domain authority of 0, and it would be completely irrelevant to search engine optimization. There is no optimization in boosting your domain authority. Spammers boost domain authority all the time. They create links specifically for Moz and Majestic and other SEO metrics providers. So those links aren't seen by Bing in Google, but they're seen by the SEO tools that are calculating these domain metrics that have no meaning to Bing and Google.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only is there no reason to use these metrics when you're reporting to clients, there are darn good reasons to not use them when you're reporting to clients, and it clouds the issue, and has really led a lot of people into making very bad decisions about, say, links that they disavow when they're doing audits, and the kinds of websites that they reach out to earn links from, or to to get links from, or something like that. If you don't have a certain domain authority, or citation flow, or trust flow, or what, whoever's metric you're using, then you're kind of cut out of the equation, which is that's kind of a good thing for the websites that are not being harassed by marketers who don't really understand the system. But it's also a bad thing because legitimate links from those websites are often disavowed. And this is, false negatives or false positives, I'm not sure how you want to phrase it, has become a bigger topic among people who talk about what you should be disavowing and not disavowing over the past 6 months or so, because there's just been so many bad disavow files that nobody's really sure of what is the right way to evaluate a link. But they need to get away from these metrics.
But what about you use the example of link research tools, right? They evaluate and rank inbound links and tell you what would be considered toxic. So you're saying that their tool is basically bogus, right?
It's an opinion. Okay, so their opinions are no more bogus in my opinion or your opinion, but they are not being treated as individual opinions. They're being treated as standards. Search engine optimization has no standards, and yet you can go into web form after web form after web form. You can look at blog post after blog post after blog post, and people are going domain authority, citation flow, trust flow, and it's just like these numbers are supposed to mean something, and they mean nothing. Okay, um, I can start giving you Martinez ranks for any website you want to look at.
Yeah,
Right?
let's have the Michael Martinez ranking for sites.
Wikipedia Martinez rank of 100. Why? Because everybody and their brother links to it. So what? Would you want a value passing link from Wikipedia? Yes. Why? Because they rel equal no follow on most of their links. They do actually. Wikipedia is part of a private blog network, and they do provide value passing links to their partners. I don't remember them all. I mean, there's like Wikimedia and the Wiki Foundation or whoever it is.
Yeah, they have a bunch.
Yeah, but they're all in the footers. They all pass value, but all those references, those good links, those useful links, I should say. I mean, they're all good links, but all those useful links that point to the sources of information that the Wikipedia editors are vetting are no followed, and so those are great links to have. I have Wikipedia links. I get traffic from wiki sites, and I love that traffic. I don't want to go out there and disavow these links, or ask people to take them down just because I have rel equal no follow on them. That's stupid. But this is the way that people think, because they are looking for something to tell them, to second guess for them, or to confirm their own guesses about what Google, sometimes Bing, but mostly Google, thinks is a good or a bad link. And I understand the desperation that went into that. They went out and got all these bad links to begin with. Google says, here's 3 examples of bad links. Now go get rid of the other 1,500. What are the other 1,500? Because you got 2,500 links. And so, they're using metrics to try and figure out what these bad links are. But the bad links are not being, Google's not using PageRank to determine if a link is good or bad. And since they're not using PageRank to determine if a link is good or bad, any substitution that you put in there for PageRank is equally invalid. It's not a link based metric. So it's a very it's just a wasteful practice for people to use these metrics in any capacity related to search engine optimization. And I include, now, do Randy and I include whatever these metrics are in our audits? Sure, because we download spreadsheets from our link research tools, and they have, columns for various metrics, and we just don't make a point of, discussing these metrics in our audits. What we do is we say, here are the links that we found. Here's why we think this group of links are bad. Here's why we think this group of links is neutral. They're not hurting you, they're not helping you. And here's why we think this group of links is good. And then we go from there. Once in a while, somebody will say, "Well, what about the X value?" I say X because we don't. It's not always domain authority. There are at least a half dozen SEO metrics, and they all come up in conversations with clients, as I'm sure you know.
Hmm.
And so, we just kind of we try to downplay the importance of it by not arguing with the client. I mean, arguing with a client is hardly ever productive. And
Right.
so we do try to explain what it is that we do when we go in and we look at a website. I mean, you and I can easily think of websites that were built solely for link spam.
Hmm.
Copy sucks. There's no website design, and there might be 3 pages on the site or something like that. There will never be more than 3 pages on the site, and just nobody mentions these websites. Nobody ever links to them. They don't really say anything worth reading, and those kinds of bad links are usually easy to find. But the problem is that people go and look at the metrics for those sites and they go, okay, yeah, this is a low X value website. Therefore, my guess that it's spam is right, and they're mistaking correlation for confirmation.
Right.
Correlation doesn't confirm anything. It never has. It never will. It doesn't work that way. But this is also coming out of the same landscape as correlation studies. SEO correlation studies are just a complete and total waste of time. Moz continues to publish them, but they're not the only ones doing it. They
Hmm.
the correlation community doesn't seem to understand that if you do a correlation study, you have factor A and factor B. Okay, if the search engines indexing and filtering and ranking processes were all run on the basis of two factors, correlation studies could be useful. But they're not. They're run on the basis of hundreds. In some cases, the search engines are telling us there are thousands of signals. And so
Hmm.
these correlation studies have absolutely no way of isolating whatever two factors they think are being used. They can't even prove that the two factors are being used. And so they come up with all these numbers and they use invalid statistical evaluation methods, like Spearman's coefficient is one of the most popular. They don't do any t-tests. There's just a lot of stuff that they don't do. Some of these companies have professional statisticians on staff, okay? And I'm talking about people with doctorates, and they're turning out this kind of nonsense. I can't imagine what goes through the minds of these people, other than that they're accepting whatever bullshit they're being fed by the SEO experts. And so, their assumption is if the data coming in is good, then the analysis going out will be acceptable. Maybe. Or maybe they just like getting paid and they don't argue with people about how stupid this stuff is. But, the various correlation values that are computed are usually so far below what science would accept as statistically significant or important or reliable or usable that the correlation studies aren't telling you anything at all. There's no correlation. Literally, there is almost never any correlation in these correlations that these people are publishing. And yet people look at all this stuff and they go, well, I have correlation studies that tend to confirm my beliefs. The correlation studies aren't confirming anything, but people believe that they're confirming. And so that just comes back to the metrics, the various authorities and things like that. People are assuming those metrics are confirming their beliefs, and they don't confirm anything either. So we have a widespread industry practice of using bad metrics and bad analyses to confirm beliefs on the basis of nonsense.
Okay. I like that. Well, and I see your point. I see, the whole correlation does not indicate causation argument has been bantered about a lot, and I have to agree with you. I think that some of the subsets that are used for the correlation data probably do not have enough data collection to substantiate some of the stuff that's being done. I don't know if you've ever seen the search metrics ranking
I,
elements.
I have. I know that they, Search Metrics and a few of the other companies, they actually have access to a lot of data.
Hmm.
Millions of query referrals and things like that for lots of big websites. I understand that, but you still have the problem of isolating these signals out of all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like a false correlation. An example of a false correlation is an obvious correlation. Okay, so an obvious correlation is if I put advertising on my website, I'm going to make some money, and I put the advertising on my website and I make some money. Okay, so that's an obvious correlation. You don't need any statistics to show you that. You just do it. False correlation can come along and say, okay, here's 500,000 websites with advertising, 500,000 websites without advertising. Well, these websites are making money. These websites are not. Okay, that's great. That's confirming an obvious correlation. But let's take the 500,000 websites that are making money and that are carrying advertising. Are they using the same advertising networks? Do they have the same ad placements? Are they getting the same click patterns? Are they getting the same CPCs? Are they getting the same, revenue sharing deals and things like that? Once you start looking at all the different factors that go into how that revenue is generated, then your correlations fall apart because it's not about two factors. It's about many different factors. And regression analysis is really built around trying to eliminate a lot of these extra signals so that you can get down to one signal and show that if I take this signal out of the data, whatever's happening in the data is going to change. Okay, that's the whole point of regression analysis. If I take this out of the data, my data will change. And that is how you confirm that your correlation, your statistical signal is valid, is significant. And they're not doing that. They are not able to do that for many reasons. The biggest reason is they don't have all the data that they need to do that. You would have to know intimately what's going on all these websites in order to show what it is that is not affecting their rankings. Okay, before you can show what is affecting their rankings, you have to rule out what's not affecting their rankings. It would be a very difficult and challenging process, and I've very rarely seen a statistical analysis dealing with websites that gave me any confidence in the findings. Uh, it just it's not that the people running the analyses don't know how to do statistics. Like I said, they're hiring PhDs to do this stuff. It's just that they don't have the data that they need to really do it. And I'm just surprised that these PhDs are coming out and putting their names on these studies. Well, technically they're not. It's the CEOs who are putting their
Right.
names on the studies.
The marketers.
You don't see. I mean, I review academic peer-reviewed literature a lot. Okay, I don't read all the journals, but I do read what goes into the journals a lot, and I find a lot of these studies published outside of the journals, and none of this stuff has ever made it into the peer review.
Hmm.
I mean, circles. The journals just don't have this kind of stuff. It's nonsense. It would not be accepted for editorial review, much less sent off to someone for anonymous review. These guys would be putting their credentials at risk, and they'd be laughed out of their fields. So that's where I stand on correlation analysis.
I get that. And so let's go back to talking about private blog networks and the value of those, and certainly the value of those from a linking standpoint. But what's the be interesting to hear your perspective on price and payoff for the amount of time and effort that goes into building these additional blog sites.
Yeah, well, that's a whole second question that I've thought about writing about, both openly on the SEO theory and privately in the newsletter, and I haven't. So let me try and deal with that in two different stages here. The value of the private blog network. I have a private blog network that I talk about openly: SEO theory, znite.org, SF fandom, michaelmartinez.com. All these websites interlink with each other, and you can see that they interlink with each other because I make it obvious that they're interlinking with each other. On some of them, I have a sidebar widget where you can see all these different articles, and it's I don't nofollow the links. They are sidebar widgets. I've always assumed that the search engines paid relatively little attention to them, but they're not penalizing my websites for doing this. There are other ways that I interlink these websites too, because if I have an about page on a major website, I'll usually say, and there's a sister site over here. I've been doing that with Zenite.org and SF Fandom for 16 years, and it's just a way of informing my visitors of what else I'm doing. And if you're a company like Unilever, you can't take God, I want to say 500 websites. I know they had hundreds of websites. I'm just going to use the number 500. Okay, you can't take 500 websites and have them all interlink with each other. It would be totally impractical on a website per website basis. Nobody is going to want to visit all those interlinking pages anyway. But what they can do is they can say this is a Unilever website, link back to Unilever, and then on the Unilever website somewhere you can have a list of your most important or all of your child domains. Unilever in the past has done that. Now, I haven't confirmed in the last few months that they're still doing it, but they're just one company out of many that you and I have worked with that interlink without using row equals no follow. Of course, you worked for IAC, and they commonly interlinked like 10 websites at one point.
Oh yeah, yeah. They've removed a lot of those footer links, but yes, they do interlink within websites, and they're probably the simpler example out of their network is the dictionary, thesaurus, um, reference
Yeah,
sites, right? So each of those is a different site.
and those are
Now,
damn good links. Those are user friendly links.
those are good links, yes.
And hotels.com, that's another brand that interlinks multiple websites. It's a private, it's not a blog network, but it's a private network. Maybe I shouldn't say we want to talk about private blog networks. We're talking about private networks. And the search engines tolerate this stuff. They even sometimes they even encourage it. Okay. Not tacitly, but directly, explicitly. They say if you are a brand and you have multiple sub brands, just a small number of them, it's okay to tell people that you have these sub brands. And so there are major brands that do that. And like I said, Wikipedia does it. So people, you mentioned private blog network, and they think, oh my God, spam. Yeah, there are people out there who build hundreds of blogs, that are just there for linking. And a lot of them are not getting caught. They probably won't ever get caught if they do it right. If they build interesting websites that people like and that earn links, publish good information, things like that, and then they just use those websites for links to whatever, yeah, they'll probably get away with it for a long, long time to come. But a lot of the private blog networks are just being churned out by software scripts, and we run into them every now and then when we're doing link audits or whatever, and it's obvious that these people are spinning content and they have pre-install WordPress packages or whatever it is that they're using, and the templates are horrible and stuff like that. And that stuff's going to get penalized. And you can go out and buy a private blog network for like $50, and it's all generated by software. That kind of stuff is bad. It's not helping anybody, except for the spammers. They get a little bit of a boost out of it until something goes wrong. Penguin might actually encourage the growth of private blog networks that are used for that, because if it becomes automated, then all you have to do is get rid of your bad links. You don't even have to disavow them. You just take the private blog networks offline, put another private blog network up, and the algorithm will see that the old links are gone, and it'll find new links, and before it has a chance to evaluate them, you get some link value.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of actually a good thing that Google hasn't updated Penguin in over a year, to be honest. I mean, the bad guys are still out there bringing new bad links to the fold, but the other guys that got into the habit of depending on those links have been stuck on the fence. And so they might be less likely to go back and do that on a repetitive basis once Penguin becomes automated and self-regulating and things like that. Someone's going to figure out how to game Penguin. I think that's just a matter of when, not if.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows? Maybe the engineers at Google realize this and they're trying to figure out what to do about that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I said that there was a second side uh, to this thing. We're kind of running out of time here, but I'm not sure I want to get into that today, to be honest.
It's
The
a pretty long topic, huh?
It is. It's a long topic. I mean, linking linking websites that you own should not be something that people fear.
Right. I
Um,
would agree with that.
and then you also have circles of influence. That's an old expression, but you have friends and business partners and things like that, and it's considered fairly standard to tell people, well, go ask them for links, because there's a reason for them to link to you, and so that's kind of a private link network too. Um, the whole private network concept is evolving, and it kind of ignores the SEO conversation because these big companies are doing this stuff for business reasons. Uh,
Hmm.
but they just, well, I don't know. I'd get started on a whole new train of thought and be gone for another 20 minutes. So I'll just leave it at that for now.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for clarifying sort of your perspective on links. I think I have to agree with you. I think that some of the linking that's portrayed as bad is not nearly as bad as it's portrayed, and I think there's a certain amount of fear around certain link types. I mean, I think it works in the favor of the link analysis tools and things like that. That it tells you this is a good link versus this is a bad link. Um, it helps to perpetuate their business in some ways, so it works to their advantage.
Yeah, I mean, we all are selling something, right?
Right.
We're selling consulting service. I sell subscriptions to a newsletter. I've had this discussion with clients. They say, well, why don't you like X and X tool? And I'll say, well, here's why I don't like it. And then take into consideration the fact that I'm selling a newsletter and SEO services, so I'm kind of either directly or indirectly competing with whatever. I can't remove the bias from that unless, somebody wants to come along and give me a lot of money just to sit around and pontificate. I'm just I'm out there competing in the marketplace, and so people need to take what I say with a grain of salt too. But I hope they think about what I say. It is worth thinking about what the tool vendors say. They go in and they look at their data, and they are sharing information on their blogs and in their reports. They are selling something, but you don't have to buy. And
Hmm.
that's a good thing. At least with this kind of stuff where they make the data available, or some parts of the data available, they're not requiring you to buy. Sometimes they require you to submit an email address so that they can start sending you pitch emails or whatever. But um, it is good that you can maintain some independence when you're discussing what it is that you do. It's not perfect. It's not as good as um, like some industry standards council settling on a
Hmm.
compromise that everybody can live with. But it's there is some merit to looking at what these guys say. It's just that people go too far, and they take what they say as if these are standards, and we have no standards.
And the scariest part would be that they're somehow equivalent to what Google's saying that is true.
Yeah, and they're totally separate. They're separate systems. Everything's separate,
Right.
isolated.
Hmm.
So, okay, well, I hope we can do this again next week. I
Yes,
think
this is good.
I think we ran way over 30 minutes with that. So I'll just stop the broadcast in 3, 2, 1.